You ready for me, Diana?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hello, welcome everyone. As Diana mentioned, I'm Julie Garrison, and I'm the Dean of Libraries at Western Michigan University. I want to welcome you to Library Skills Week. We transitioned this year's programming to a completely virtual environment. This is for your convenience as well as to protect your health and safety during this pandemic. Our librarians and staff have designed a series of talks and workshops aimed to help you, our WMU community, to make the most of your library resources to advance your own learning and teaching. Whether you're looking to expand your knowledge of the publishing landscape, better understand how to use our vast research collections or tools, or discover ways to evolve your teaching to incorporate more open educational resources, this week's programming has something to offer you. I hope that you enjoy our keynote presentations, learning more about ways you can take advantage of our library special collections, archives, and regional history collections, our resources available in a variety of disciplines, our mapping and data services, and so much more. Please know that our librarians and staff are here to help you be successful whenever you need them. So consider this week's programming as a start, and know that you can contact our librarians and staff with your research questions anytime. Now I'm going to turn the program back over to Diana Sachs, who will be introducing our first keynote speaker.
Thank you, Julie. I would like to thank all of you for joining us today. This is the opening keynote presentation given by Liz Lorbeer, the Chair and Associate Professor of at WMed's Department of the Medical Library. The title of this presentation, of the Library Skills Week opening keynote, is Publish and Thrive as an Early Career Researcher. As previously mentioned, we are recording this session, so any participant who would like to view the recording later on will be able to find it on the WMU Library's YouTube channel. Liz will be speaking for about half an hour, and then we will have a question and answer session at the end, so please hold your questions until the end, or you can enter them into the chat system at any time during the presentation, but we will answer your questions at the end. We will also have a brief survey for participants to complete at the end. We would love your feedback. Now, a little bit of biographical information to introduce our wonderful keynote speaker today. Ms. Liz Lorbeer began her role at WMed in 2013. Her career spans over 25 years as a librarian. She's an elected board member to the Society of Scholarly Publishing and is the principal investigator to 4 National Network of Libraries of Medicine's Express Library Digitization Award grants. She regularly consults for publishers. She holds the rank of associate professor and teaches scholarly communications within the medical education program. So thank you again, Liz, and a warm welcome to you all.
Thank you so much. That was just so kind of you. Thank you, Diana. You're a fantastic colleague, and I always appreciate working with you. I'm going to share my screen. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yay. All righty. Okay. And I'm going to close my chat box. So, but I'll open it and pause during the presentation. And Diana's going to help me with the chat box today. But thank you so much. I am so honored to be your keynote speaker today. And I hope to share some of my knowledge and some of my experience. But I really want to thank the medical students and my publishing colleague friends for helping me to assemble this presentation today. I threw out a question to them over a week ago, asking, what would you want our colleagues over at WMU to know about publishing and thriving as an early career researcher? And I have to say that I got over 30 responses back. So I hope that I've assembled all of that into this presentation today, and that you walk away with a few items that will help you along the way and on your journey. Okay. All right, so quickly, I just want to disclose any conflict of interest that I might have. I do want to tell you that I am an elected board member of the Society for Scholarly Publishing, and I also am on 3 library advisory boards. So some learning objectives that I have for you today is that I hope that you become familiar with scholarly publishing, you identify some essential steps, planning and writing, and you learn some strategies for getting published. So that is my goal today. And again, I want to thank everybody who's helped me assemble the presentation. So in the chat box, if you would, my first question to you all is, have you published in a scholarly journal? So I'm going to just take a few seconds here and just see what the responses are from participants today. So we have a pretty mixed crowd. We have a lot of yeses and we have a lot of nos. And I'm glad I hadn't seen no luck yet. So a lot of yeses, a lot of nos, and that's pretty typical. So I like this quote. A colleague of mine who's currently the past president of the Society for Scholarly Publishing, she tells a lot of early career researchers, no one is formally taught how to get through the publishing process. And as such, it is really confusing. There is just no playbook on how one goes about it for each discipline. So it can be a confusing process, and hopefully today will make that a little bit easier for you. So first of all, the one thing that I definitely got back from the students when I threw out this question is be passionate about your topic. Select research that you're generally interested in and can contribute to the research team. Don't just glom on to anything that comes your way. And a lot of times you feel like this is your only opportunity. Don't do that. Really be very picky, be very selective, and be passionate. And just know that good research takes time. It's not something that can generally be done in a few weeks or even a few months. You really do need to plan and create your milestones, and just know that it's a process. I like to tell students that it is better to be a driver of your project than to be a passenger. So if you are the PI, or if you are the head of the research team, you're responsible for the protocol, you're responsible for assembling the abstract, you're responsible for the literature review, you have a team working for you, and you are making those decisions. It's so much better than being a passenger and having to wait for maybe your research team when they have time to work on things. And then last, I like to tell students and residents and early career researchers here, learn how to juggle multiple projects. It's rare for us in academia to just be on one project. I had a resident who I worked with for a few years, and he used to say it was like his scholarly kitchen. He had a few projects on simmer and he had a few on boil. And, he learned really who he was working with and how fast or slow projects would operate. He would map out his calendar for the next like 12 weeks to know when he was working on things. And so this is just a reminder to you all that you really just need to learn how to juggle and use your calendar and have good time management. The next is it novel? So, you know, it's kind of hard when you're an early career researcher to know if an occurrence is truly novel. I know for myself, looking back at my graduate school, working as an early career academic, I didn't know if something was novel, if something was new, original, or unusual. Everything was new to me. And so what I like to tell the students here at the medical school is show up to meetings a little bit early and cozy up to the clinicians, cozy up to the faculty members, and have some chit chat. And just say, you know, what is the most interesting case that you saw in the last month? Or what have you read recently that you found was really new or had really interesting results that you didn't expect? You know, was there, if you had more time to study something, you know, what would you study and why? So I find that it's a great way to kind of flesh out what might be novel if you're still kind of searching for it. The other thing is go to guest lectures at the university. The reason why these folks are brought in, and I realized during COVID, they're now available online, which is even better. You don't have to even leave the house. But guest lectures generally bring in a body of knowledge that sometimes is not at the university, or they're working on something that is very, very interesting, and people in the department want to know more. So they're great people to listen to, network, and you know, ask your question like to your guest lecturer, like, what's the most interesting thing, you know, you've read about your research recently or discovered? I think that's just a great way for you to find if it's novel. So as you can guess, as a librarian, I'm here to say always do a thorough literature search. A librarian can help you with your search strategy for your literature review. And the reason why I say this is, you know, a lot of medical students will come to me and say, I think I have a really novel idea. Can you help me with literature search? You know, is this really unusual, an occurrence? And we'll do a lit search, and it turns out it's not. And so many times you're going to have to go to what I call the literature well, and you're going to have to do a lit search to see, is it truly novel? And if it is, then, you know, you're off and running there. So, and the librarian, again, the librarian can help you. Also, have the librarian show you how to set up the database alerts to notify you of the latest published papers. Have these databases work for you. You know, I often joke, like, I searched the databases once, I set up the alerts, and after that, the alerts just keep coming each week for me. And while I'm writing a paper, I don't have to keep going back and searching. The alerts are there for me. And then last, if you all know about browsing, Western libraries have the browsing app. I have the app on my phone, and I've built a bookcase of all of my favorite journals that I like to read professionally. And when I'm in line waiting, if you ever see me at Kohl's, that's when I do some of my best reading in line. So I read all of my literature then, and that's how I keep up to date. So, you know, look at these really, look at the hacks that you can do for your research. And again, the librarians can help you put that together. So the next question I get a lot is, where do I put my work? You know, I want to write this manuscript and I need to find a journal. And I'm here to tell you that there is over 800,000 academic journals out there. There's a lot. So I'm here to tell you, don't be afraid to submit your paper where you really want to get it published. I know for myself, I last year 2 years ago, I said to myself, I want to have a paper published in the top journal in my field. That was my goal. And with that being said, I reached out to the editor prior to submission to make sure it was going to be a good match. I told her, I have this idea. I've done a poster. I've done a lot of research. I'm ready to write the paper, but I want to write this paper for your journal. And I wanted to get accepted. And she was very intrigued. She said, we'd love to have your paper. We're going to make it a special topic. And you have about 4 months to get it to us. And it worked out really well. And so if that's what you want, if that's your goal, go after it. But always check with the editor to make sure it's a good match. And another reason why I say that is right now, there's a lot of special calls for diversity and inclusion papers, COVID papers, wellness papers, you name it. And a lot of issues are sometimes snuffing out some of the other research that has been ongoing prior to, especially for us in medicine, prior to COVID. And so, it's always really good to write to the editor and see what's going on. I recently wrote to an editor. I have another idea for a paper. And she said, Liz, I'd love to have your paper. It's probably not going to get published until next October because the next few issues are dedicated to these topics. So just know where you're at and your timing. And talking about timing, I really like Research Square's journal guide that I've left here. I use the journal finders and suggesters to help me find journals to publish in. But what I like about Research Square is that it will tell me for most journals how long peer review is going to be. So I have it in my mind right now that I want to have at least one publication in a journal published by June. So that means that I really have to have it in by a certain date. It's going to have to go for peer review. And so I've used Research Square. I also use Jane. That happens to be one of my favorite ones for matching up articles for myself in the biomedical sciences. If you really enjoy certain aspects of titles and you're looking for certain, I would say, qualities, the Cofactor Journal Selector is really great as well. And just know that almost all of the large academic publishers have their own suggester. So you can go to any of their sites and find what you need. Okay. The next is know the scope of the journal you wish to submit to. I find that when I work with a lot of students, they find the title of the journal and they just run with it. Really read the aims and scope and a few articles to thoroughly understand what is accepted to the journal. Every journal has their own feel, so to speak, because it has its own personality, and that's really run by the editor. And so you really want to make sure that you find the proper home for your work. And then also, nothing irritates an editor more than a totally off-topic paper taking up their time. So, I asked my colleague who's an editor at one of my information science journals how many papers she gets a month. And she said, on average, I get about 20 papers. And she said, but there's usually about 2 to 4 of them that make no sense why anybody would have submitted the article to me, the paper to me. And because editors will take the time to read your paper, it's kind of a waste of time for them and they get very, very frustrated. And they're more likely not to give you feedback except to say, you should have read the aims and scope. So just be careful with that. The other thing is prior to submitting the manuscript, always, even actually prior to writing, let me take that back. Prior to writing your manuscript is always read the instructions to authors. It does take an hour or two to kind of digest if you take your time. But definitely read that. It'll give you all the information you need to know. And like simple items like type of articles they accept. So if you write a case report or you write a review article, they may say, we don't accept those. I don't even know why you would submit it here. So they'll tell you what they accept. Word count, they might say, we only accept 1,200 words. Well, don't give them a paper that's 500,000 sorry, 1,200 words. Don't give them a paper that's about 5,000 words. They're not going to read it. Reference count, data availability statements. So there's a lot of really good information in there you need to look at. But what's really been a game changer for the students I've spoken to is the journal template and formatting checklist. Most journals now, especially with the commercial press, have journal templates that you can download. And in those Microsoft Word documents is a lot of good information of what they're expecting your paper to include. And I have to say, I used a template for the first time this year, and it made writing so much easier for me, and I actually saved time. So definitely take a look at that. It does really help with the process. This is just a pet peeve of mine because, again, I am a librarian, but format your references correctly. So this week, you have an amazing opportunity to learn how to use Editorial, and I think there's some other reference bibliographic citation managers as well, but learn one. We at the medical school use Mendeley. It doesn't matter. They all do about the same thing. I love when people have their citations formatted correctly on their CV. It just shows to me that they are a serious scholar. Read your discipline style guide and tab it. Honestly, take the time. So here I have the APA guide. I have it tabbed. In fact, they even tab it for you, but I have more tabs here. I have the AMA manual style as well. And literally when we left campus to go into quarantine, this is the book that I took from my office. I know it's a pet peeve, but really you do need to know how to write well. You need to know how to cite well, and you need to follow the style guide. And if you ever need help, ask a librarian. You can just send, an email. We get them every week. I'm always very happy to research and answer a question about citations. And I'm sure, again, you have plenty of opportunity this week to know how one works. Okay, get off my soapbox about that. Okay, so you've written your paper and you're about to submit. And so I'm here to tell you that my colleague, Tricia Kershaw, she's at the American Society of Civil Engineers. She says, identify yourself. Let the publisher and editor know that you're a first-time contributor, that you're an early career researcher. And by doing that, that kind of alerts them that, you are new to this, and that they will then, if, when they're communicating with you, they will be instructive in their responses. So if there is something that they are not seeing with your paper, or they would like you to do certain things before going to peer review, or it is going to peer review, they'll be more instructive in their responses. What makes me kind of sad sometimes is when I have a student in my office who says, it was rejected and I don't know why. And unfortunately, editors receive so many papers every day, especially many of the larger, very fluent titles. And so if you're able to, there's a box that says, is there anything else you wish to communicate with the editor? That's where you want to tell them that you are a first-time contributor, you are an early career researcher, and if they could be instructive in their responses. If you feel comfortable, you may also mention if English is not your primary language. And the reason why is many publishers do have editing services at your disposal. And I work with some faculty here where English is not their primary language, and we use editing services. They don't write your paper, but they help you with the language. And so that, that the readability is a little bit clearer if you need it. And I'll tell you a little bit secret. I am a native English speaker, and even I use the editing services because if you've heard me speak the last 20 minutes, I'm a very folksy speaker, and it comes out in my writing, especially my academic writing and in my voice. And so I have to clean that up sometimes. And then last, remember, editors always want contributions from early career researchers. They want new voices in the field. So another question that I normally get from folks is, there's no time to publish. I absolutely have no time. So I'm going to give you some ideas. I'm going to just leave them with you. If you've ever heard of the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, it's something that I learned about 7 years ago when I came here to Western Michigan University. It's an emerging movement of scholarly thought and action that draws on the relationship between teaching and learning at the post-secondary level. So if you're a teaching assistant, a grad assistant, a postdoc, and you're doing anything with teaching and learning with students, with faculty, there is scholarship there. And I would really encourage you to explore that. So if you don't have time for the hard science research or the research that takes much longer, look at the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. We've had several students at the medical school over the last few years publish with our faculty in that area, and it's been a wonderful success for them. It is a publication credit. And don't forget editorials, letters, comments, reviews, podcast. I worked with one medical student who used to do radiology podcasts. They were fabulous. Blogs, these are all newer forms of scholarly communication. And if it's something that is of interest to you, I think you should explore it. And then offer your expertise. So you might not want to be driving a research project, but I worked with a really fabulous statistician, and he must author anywhere from 9 to 15 papers a year. And he's the statistician on the paper. He writes the statistical method. And so if that's something that you can do well, consider offering up your services to be a co-author. If you're good with theory, programming languages. I have a colleague that I work with here in the library. He is fabulous for programming languages. He can help you write that. Anything with biochemical, pharma, historical, you name it. If you have that expertise and you can offer it up, it allows you to write a smaller portion of the paper and still get an authorship. And then I always say, find other co-authors. Don't do this alone. There's a lot of undergraduate and master's students, and in their journey, they would like to publish because they, in their mind, would like to go on to a professional school, whether it be medicine, PhD, business. They also want to publish. So, you can definitely reach out to those students. They would love to work with you. And then us faculty librarians, we all do scholarship. I write with the students and faculty here. We do systematic reviews, and we're always available. I've learned some very interesting topics over the years. I probably know too much about drug stunts, but, as my husband says, if I'm ever on a game show, I might put that to good use. Okay. So we're going to go into the chat box again. I'm going to ask you if you're familiar with preprint servers. And so if you want to answer real quickly. So real quickly, so I'm guessing the folks that are saying yes on preprint servers are probably in the physical or life sciences, but preprint servers are newer to us in medicine, and I suspect they're also newer also in the social sciences. I don't know too much about the humanities, so I apologize. But the preprint servers have been around for quite a long time for again, in the physical sciences. And it's a place where you can put your full draft of your research paper that is shared publicly before it even goes for peer review. And so sometimes when I meet students and they're having a really tough time placing their paper, I suggest a preprint server. And there's a lot of benefits to preprint servers. You can get credit. So you can claim, if it's novel, you can claim it for credit. You can get feedback because it's available in the open, and people will come by and give you feedback, and visibility. And I left some examples here. You probably have heard of bioRxiv if you're in the life sciences. In medicine, we just got its friend, medRxiv. I use the preprint server to put my own social sciences research in SSRN. And so it's a wonderful way to, again, disseminate your work. I do want to caution that some journals out there do not accept works already published in a preprint server. That is occurring less, but always check the instructions to author. So I do want to warn you about that. Usually it's acceptable in the life and physical sciences. Medicine, again, is coming around. I just don't know about the social sciences and humanities, so I do want to caution you. I also want to tell you there's no cost to publish in the preprint server, so there's always benefits there. And then last, I want to tell you that publishers actually search the preprint servers for potential works to publish in. And you'll see if you ever go to medRxiv or bioRxiv, you'll see that publishers along the way tag the papers saying that they're under consideration. So it's another avenue for you. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next question. Chat box here. Have you ever peer reviewed for a journal? So we have a mixed crowd here again. So who can be a peer reviewer? And believe it or not, it just needs to be a reviewer who has sufficient scientific or technical expertise to provide an appropriate review. And so who does this include? This includes senior graduate students. It includes postdocs and early career faculty. So if you fit that, that place in your scholarship and academic journey, yes, you can peer review, totally acceptable. I sometimes have medical students that stop in my office, they're in their 4th year, and they're like, someone wants me to peer review. And my first question is, I think you should do it if you feel that you have sufficient knowledge on the topic. And sometimes you do, and sometimes you have to say no. Even me, sometimes I'm asked to peer review, and it's on an area that I have no prior knowledge. I know what it is when I see it, but I don't have enough sufficient knowledge to really do peer reviewing. And sometimes I do have to say no. But if you feel comfortable, definitely think about it. And again, if you're reading the literature regularly, if you're using your browsing, you're doing your lit searches, and you're reading your core journals, it is easier to know if the authors have done a good job covering the topic. And so when I do peer review for myself, I can tell pretty quickly if someone has not searched the literature. It's just really, it's like, how could I hate to say this, but it's like in your face that they didn't do their homework, so to speak. So definitely think about it. And so why peer review? So I have to tell you, I didn't start peer review until I came to Western Michigan University. I came to peer review very late in life. I never was a strong academic writer. I do write and publish, but it takes me forever to write a paper. I am really slow. And I will tell you that when I started to peer review, it was a good reminder to me that not all papers are born perfect. In fact, when I started peer reviewing, I felt a lot better about myself, that I was not the only one out there. It also turned out to be a wonderful opportunity to see what my colleagues are working on. So I do peer review for abstracts to conferences, and I also do it for papers. And I love, and because it's usually blinded and I don't know who the authors are, it's really wonderful to go to a conference and actually see something that I really enjoyed reading and was really feeling great about and wanting to know more actually was published. And so you do shape the information released into the discipline. And I think that's a very powerful thing, especially when you're an early career researcher. You probably feel like you don't have very much power, but you, in peer reviewing, you really do. You really can shape what goes out there. And I'll tell you, for me, it helps to reflect, slow down, and take the focus off yourself. So instead of focusing on myself and my research, I actually read someone else's research, and it's been really very helpful to me. But I will tell you this, training for peer review is not always out there. And in fact, most people, there was a study done in 2015 by Wiley, who's a major STM publisher, found that like 35% of respondents of the study obtained peer review training from their supervisors or colleagues. So we kind of learned from other people how to do it, especially our mentors. And then, you know, the other 30% learned about peer review by reading the instructions provided by the journal. And then last, it goes less and less from there. But there was agreement that 80% believe more training would positively impact peer review. So I really encourage you to seek out the training. Right now, many associations and many professional organizations offer peer review training, either through webinars or they have actually training programs, and there's quite a lot out there. In fact, when I was assembling this, I knew of just a few, and I had more responses about the training program. This is something that publishers really wanted to let you know, that they would really like to help you with peer review and to make it a good experience for you. And then also, as an early career researcher, a lot of publishers like when you peer review for them, because believe it or not, you take half the time. This was from a science editor who said that early career researchers complete reviews more quickly than traditional reviewers. Actually, early career researchers will do it in about 13 days. And traditional reviewers, like myself, will do it in about 22 days. And I'll let you in a little secret. When I do peer review, I don't always do it as quickly as I would like to. It's something that I do kind of when I, after work. so I would tell you that it's not something I always quickly get to with my daily tasks. So if this is something you can do, I really encourage you. And then these are just some of the publishers that got back to me about their different programs that they have. I've left that in the PowerPoint, which Diana or the library team can give you after this presentation. I just want to point out two things really quickly from John Engel, who's at Cold Harbor Springs. Another opportunity offered to early career researchers to showcase their critical thinking by commenting on preprints. And unlike traditional peer review, in which a journal editor privately invites opinion on submitted papers from a limited number of anonymous reviewers, he writes, preprint assessment can be voluntary, public, and provided by many different voices. And so he recommended both free review and pre-lights. And so check that out. It's something that I've learned about recently, and I hope that will be very helpful to you in your journey. So we've talked about writing, we've talked about peer review, but I really also encourage you to think about early career editorial boards. Many societies have editorial training programs, learn through doing, and they're very interested in what you have to offer because it provides perspective to them on how research practices are currently changing. With social media, our mandates from the federal government on depositing literature, whatnot. There's just a lot going on, and really all spectrums of career, from people who are early career or your very seasoned research. We all bring a different perspective, and so make sure that if it's something you'd like to do, definitely approach the societies, and they would be very much happy to have you. Okay. And I feel like I also need to talk about rejection. I noticed that one of the students I had recently is on this call, and I don't share this very often, but I did share it with some of the students this year. 2019 was like my worst year. I got rejected by a lot. I don't know, but it came in a wave, and it came in a bad wave. And all I can tell you is 2020, as tough as this year is a lot better for me. And I got a lot of feedback about my submissions, and I had a peer reviewer write that my research was not sexy. And that probably set me back for like a week, because I was like, do I need to put lipstick on it? You know, so because, you know, when you create your research, it's like a part of you. And so it was a little bit hard to digest. But I'm here to say I'm still standing. So here's my tip that I tell students. Find 3 journals you want to publish your work in that have similar formatting styles so you can save time. It's okay. You're probably going to be rejected. And you know what? You're rejected, go on to the next journal. And, you know, that way, when you're rejected, the turnaround is pretty quick. And you don't want to have to reformat your papers. So that's why I say try to find 3 that are about the same. And while this is going on, you will have to refresh your literature search to see if any new works have been published. It just happens. And so if you're able to persevere and pick yourself up a little bit faster, it will be fine. I will tell you, everything that got rejected in 2019 has been accepted in 2020, and I'm just moving on. What else? Because I've only had half an hour. So I'm going to go quickly on the what else part for you. Use a plagiarism checker. All of the publishers, when you submit your manuscripts, use the same plagiarism checker that you have at the university. So before you even submit, run it through a plagiarism checker. See if you forgot to cite something. See if you've done some bad paraphrasing and it comes up as plagiarism. You do, it does happen. It happens to the best of us. So always run it through a plagiarism checker. Next thing, I like to use Pro Writing Aid, Grammarly, or Editage for my writing. All of the first 2 are free. The third one, there is some cost to it. But what I really like about that, it helps to clean up my grammar. I am a really bad proofreader. I'm the first to admit it. I am the world's worst proofreader. I put it through this and it picks up all my stupid little errors. Consult IRB. Especially if you're animal studies, human subject studies, anything that is a study that requires IRB approval, the publishers will not accept, will not approve or publish your research if they do not have documentation from IRB. And so I have found students have often thought, well, it's non-exempt, you know, or it's exempt, or it's this, or it's that. And so don't think that. Always have your paperwork for IRB. They will want to see that. Data sharing as well. Very important with data sharing that you have a place to put your data. That you can't keep that kind of like close to your, you know, your pocket and to your heart with your data. You will have to share that. And there's lots of repositories out there, and the publishers can help you. The librarians can help you. And that goes to my next topic, depositing your work in ScholarWorks. You'll have the option to deposit the postprint in ScholarWorks. Definitely, you want to do that. You want people to find your work. ScholarWorks is a wonderful tool. And especially this week, ask your subject librarian more about it. I can't say this enough, avoid predatory publishing. It's not where you want to be. You never want your work there. There's a great site, Think, Check, Submit. There are benefits of open access publishing. People will find your works faster. Most journals now are going to hybrid in academia. And so definitely open access journals are not crummy journals. There can be excellent journals. So think about that. Paying for article page charges, APCs, they do exist. It's really sometimes hard to find these funds. Here at the medical school, we have scholarships that students can apply for these funds. Look for your associations, look for the professional organizations, look within your department to help you pay for those APC charges. That is important. And then last, publish in a journal index in a bibliographic database in your field. You want people to find your research. If you don't, the only person who's going to find your research is your family because you gave them the link. So keep that in mind. So you want to make sure that the journal is fully indexed in the bibliographic database in your field. And you must always double check that with a librarian. I can't tell you how many times publishers really mess that up. And I can't tell if they just don't know the difference or if they're not being honest. So you always want to vet that with the librarian to say, like, if I publish in this journal, is it going to be indexed in this database? And where else is it going to be indexed? Because you want your research to be findable. Okay, so quickly, parting advice. If there's anything you do today, is introduce yourself to your subject librarian. They're here to help you and to make sure that you're very successful. Get to know this person. I will tell you, the students that take time to get to know me and they tell me what they're working on, they will tell you that I will send them throughout the year calls for papers. I will send them articles of interest. So I am their ally. I am their best cheerleader when it comes to that type of information, and I will forward that on. And you really want your librarian to do that for you. A piece of information that I received 24 years ago from my mentor was published at least once a year. And I've continued to do that. And after 25 years, you're like, whoa. Now, I will be honest, there were some years I didn't publish anything, and there were other years I got 3 things. But the point is attempt to publish once a year. Write a little bit each day or each week. Right now, I'm a big fan of football, so I'm not writing as much. But when there is no football, I write on Sunday afternoons. And so that is my writing time. My family knows that I write for 2 hours on Sunday, no football time, when there's no football going on. You need mentors and peers to support you. I know sometimes it's hard to find a mentor. If you can't find a mentor, find a peer, or have both. And I have to say that I have both. And then last, imposter syndrome is real. I don't know how to make it better. But a few years ago, when I was really struggling in my research and feeling like, gosh, I don't belong here. Like, they must have made a mistake. I'm going to tell you, you're here because you're smart enough. You've proven yourself. And if anything, this quote has helped me the most. I'm not afraid of storms, for I'm learning to sail my ship. So anytime you feel like, oh gosh, I don't belong here, just say that quote and just know that you do belong and that you're making a contribution. Okay, so quickly, I want to thank all of the publisher colleagues that helped me. There's quite a lot of them, so I want to thank them as much. Thank them. I want to thank all of the WMed students that responded to me the last 2 weeks. So thank you very much for your input, as always. And I have to tell you, I learned so much from students, and their input just makes me better at what I do. I want to thank my WMU colleagues that helped me with this presentation. And I will go to questions.
Thank you so much, Liz. I am probably not exactly an early career researcher anymore, but I still learned so much from this presentation. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your expertise and your experience with all of us. So if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to just unmute yourself and ask, or you can type your questions into the chat. We've got about 10 minutes or so for questions, and then I will put in a link to our final survey. So thank you all very much, and a virtual round of applause for Liz.
Hi, this is Juliana. I have a question, if I can just jump right in.
Sure.
Okay. So I had no idea that you should ID yourself at submission, especially when you're a first-time contributor. That was not anything I've ever heard of before. So thank you so much for that tip. I was frantically writing during that section. You mentioned something about like looking for a box in which to write that to the editor. Is that a standardized thing? If not, would it be appropriate just to email them? What are your thoughts on that, Liz?
Oh, sure. So my colleague who told me that says it's in the submission. So when you're filling out the submission form for the manuscript, there's often a box. Is there like anything you'd like to tell us? If it's not there, when you are writing to the editor to see if they're even interested in your article, which I think is a great idea, by the way. I kind of came to that late, but it saves me a lot of time. If there's people out there who are not interested and people who are really interested. And so, I'll tell them this is the first time I'm publishing a new journal. And they, it just really alerts the editor, and they're so helpful. And this last go around, I worked with an amazing editor. I'd written to her. The publisher had the wrong template up on their webpage, and she didn't know. So she sent me to the editing service, and it was just a really great experience. But because I was a first-time contributor and we had that dialogue, I really think it saved me a lot of time and a lot of stress on both our parts.
Great, thank you so much.
I do see a question here posted asking about the recording. And yes, the recording of this presentation will be available on the WMU Library's YouTube channel, and probably, I think, linked on our website as well. So if you missed anything or want to go back and check anything, or share it with your friends, it will all be available.
I have another question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Sorry. I recently spoke with a WMU staff member who actually just completed a master's degree, and this person felt like they didn't have time to publish while they were in grad school, and now wants to publish. Any tip for that particular person who feels like, because I loved your slide on not having time, so I would love to pass along that to the staff member if possible.
Oh yeah, I think that as practitioners, so we don't have to always write when we're in the academy, and I do meet a lot of practitioners, especially here at the School of Medicine. Most of our faculty are actually practitioners. So, and they write when something really catches their eye, and I think the voice of the practitioner sometimes is very different from the academic, because they're writing to their colleagues who are practitioners. And so I always think that there's room for everything. And now that your friend is a practitioner, she may go back to her papers or her research interest with a completely different focus. In my field, we call it how we did it good papers, but believe it or not, I actually like them because it's a practitioner talking to another practitioner. And there's times when I do want a research-based, theoretical-based, solid foundation, theory-based paper. And there's other times where I just want my colleague just to tell me how to do it or how it worked for them, because I don't really have time to do the research. So I think that there's a lot of these out there. And I also, what I really enjoy, especially working with community faculty or adjunct faculty, is that they love to team up with students and especially our graduate students, because they don't write very often, and it's very scary for them. Especially when I always tell students, when you approach them and you say, like, I want to do this and this and this and this, all they have in their eyes is like, oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming. I work so many hours a week. There's no way I could pull up a 15-page paper. So I always try to suggest to students, find out how much time they have. Can you shadow? Can you do a lot of that? Can they just, what can they pitch in? Because practitioners do have that knowledge that we sometimes don't have.
Thank you. That was really helpful.
I'm going to just put a link to our feedback survey. If everybody would click on that link, we would definitely appreciate your feedback. We do still have time for a couple of more questions if anybody would care to ask Liz while you've got her here.
Well, I have a question if someone doesn't have one right now for you all. So I would say, like, how do you learners, or how do you students, how do you go about finding research at Western Michigan? That's something that we here at the medical school sometimes struggle on, because it's not that we're not willing to share. It's just that we sometimes don't think about always like disseminating what we're doing. And so I'm just kind of curious what you all do at Western. So how do you find about different interesting projects going on?
We'll open that up to any of our student participants. And feel free to just put your responses in chat too, if that's easier. Liz, could you repeat the question?
Oh, sure. So how do you, Western Michigan University, how do you find out about, if you're a learner and you're like, gosh, I want to get involved in research, who do you go to or where do you go to? Is there like a website? Do you go like the faculty chair? I'm just kind of curious because it's something that we here at the medical school we're trying to involve more of our students. So right now, about 40% of our medical students actually publish, which is about average for most medical schools. So we're doing well there. But sometimes it can be difficult because unless you know somebody who knows somebody, it's not always easy to find projects. And so I'm just kind of curious what you all do. You're a much larger campus. You're doing a lot of research. And so I was just kind of curious how, like, if you had any tips.
I'm sure much of this depends on by subject area too. So we'd love to hear from several of you. If you could share your thoughts on how do you find out where to publish or what research opportunities might be.
So I'm a first-year medical student and I don't really have any experience, but I've been trying to get involved in research. And the first thing that I did as a friend and we came up with an idea and we just tried to contact the library and I've just been going from there. We're pretty lost right now, to be honest, and that's kind of why we came into this call. But we're just glad to know that the library is a really good resource.
All right, so come see me. I'll be back in the office this week and we'll figure out what we can put you on. I have to say, I wanted to tell people that librarians know everything that's going on in the university. We know about everybody's research, and we're often, and people don't think about us all the time. But COVID research, oncology, farm, we will put you in touch because we do everybody's lit search here at the school. So don't be afraid to run into your, that's why I say, introduce yourself to your subject librarian because they're probably going to help you quite a lot. They're probably going to remember a literature search or know somebody who does something that you're interested in doing.
I would certainly echo that. We would love to hear from all of you and help you with your research at whatever point in the process you happen to be. I do see a few comments referring to chairs and graduate advisors and faculty advisors in different departments, helping connect students with research opportunities and publishing opportunities. And also a reference to the Hilltop Review, which is WMU's graduate student journal. So the links to Hilltop Review are up in the chat as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. I really encourage students to publish in student journals. We have them in medicine, but it's wonderful to know that you have them at Western. It really shows if you're planning on continuing your journey in academia or even as a practitioner, that you're writing and contributing to your peers, which I think is just so wonderful. And everybody has a paper in them. I remember someone telling me that in graduate school, and I was like, I'm not sure I have a paper in me. Years later, I have lots of papers in me. And so everybody has a paper in them. I'm not sure if I have a book in me, but I know I have some papers in me. So I definitely encourage you. Look for posters. Posters are a great way to get started. Posters are a way that I test my research. I put my poster, now they're digital posters are great. You don't have to like cart them anywhere in the world and have to deal with like airport security. That's a different lecture, but posters are a great way to get feedback as well.
Well, we are at 5 o'clock. Thank you again so much, Liz, for this wonderful talk. I will mention again the link to the feedback survey. I'll pop that in chat one more time. Also, I noticed that Liz has shared her email address on this last slide. So if you have any questions in the future, please, obviously, Liz has invited you to reach out to her. You should also feel free to reach out to any of us at WMU Libraries. Thank you all so much for coming today. And I am going to stop recording right now.